Dis is a vast, oppressive plain, mostly flat and barren, dotted with black, stagnant rivers. It stretches for a seemingly endless distance until it reaches some rolling hills. The sky above is a dull, cloudy green, occasionally pierced by lightning. At the center of this plain rises the iron city of Dis, a potentially infinite city that feels perpetually overcrowded and suffocating. The city's outskirts are encircled by foul rivers that flow from a massive moat, almost large enough to be considered a lake. The walls and streets of Dis are made of glowing, red-hot iron, capable of inflicting severe burns with even brief contact. The air is thick with smoke from burning iron, shrouding the entire city in a dark haze. Within Dis, prisoners of war, tormented underlings, criminals, and kidnapping victims are confined in underground dungeons. Their cries of despair echo through small vents in the iron walls. Above it all stands the Iron Tower, a colossal structure that rises from the city like an oak from an anthill. This tower changes its shape and is composed of searing gray iron. Its overwhelming presence deters most from attempting to reach it. Past the moat, the city is surrounded by steep mountains, making it difficult to see from a distance. A white cobblestone path leads from the base of the mountains to the city. Approaching the city from the outside is a surreal experience. Travelers can only reach the city by following a white cobblestone road paved with skulls. As one approaches, there is no noticeable transition from outside to the interior of the city. It seems to simply engulf the traveler, erasing any sense of an outer boundary as they simply appear inside the city. Leaving Dis is equally disorienting. Those few who manage to escape find themselves walking away from a hidden valley encircled by mountains. Detailed accounts of the city's exterior are rare, but it is a hostile and foreboding environment. Dis is a paradoxical plane within Baator. Although each layer of Baator is infinitely large, Dis feels confining to all those who traverse it. Gaining entry to the layer requires the permission from Dispater, the Lord of the Second, or Asmodeus. There are illegal ways to enter. Like other planes of hell, one can acquire a letter of passage from an outcast devil. Each group of travelers experiences a different travel time to reach the city. Regardless of the duration, the gates always appear unexpectedly. One moment, travelers are on the streets of burning iron, and the next, they have suddenly passed through the metallic black gates and entered the city. Inside the city, travelers find themselves in an endless maze of shifting streets, contributing to the plane's oppressive nature. The city has never been mapped, as it constantly changes, requiring crews of devils to continually work to prevent the buildings and structures from collapsing. Navigating the plane of Dis, particularly as an uninvited guest, demands adventurers to be skilled in stealth and deception. It is prudent to wear fire-resistant clothing. In particular, footwear that can withstand the heat of the iron roads and the sharp spurs they are made from is critical. Dispater, the ruler of Dis, is perpetually paranoid about potential coups. He views newcomers and intruders as spies and tools sent to dethrone him. Consequently, the city is heavily monitored. Observers can spot scrying orbs hovering in the sky, providing Dispater with constant surveillance. The city walls are embedded with scrying lenses that function as microphones. Additionally, iron statues of the Lord of the Second with glowing red eyes are scattered throughout the city. Only those skilled in evading means of magical surveillance, or those who can strike a deal with the devil, stand a chance of evading his detection. Forming pacts with such devils should be done with care. Forming a contract with the devil is always dangerous, because even the least intelligent devil is often far more intelligent than the best mortal lawyer. Loopholes that devils use are a constant threat. It would not be uncommon for a devil to turn against their victim using a loophole in the law and turn them over to Dispater. The devils of Dis commonly employ a tactic of herding and forcefully driving intruders into the city's walls to eliminate their enemies by burning them. Navigating the city presents its own set of challenges. The Iron Tower is always visible, no matter where one is in the city. The ever-shifting nature of the plane and its seemingly endless expanse require specialized knowledge to traverse. The Batezu of Dis have an innate ability to navigate this spatial confusion, making it beneficial for outsiders to seek their guidance moving through the city. Prudent travelers in Dis should avoid bargaining with their own souls. Instead, they should carry substantial amounts of gold, silver, and magical items. Additionally, those who can secure contracts for the souls of others can use those obtained souls for transactions, as devils are particularly eager to acquire souls to advance in their hierarchy. Situated in the hellish Iron City, the Iron Tower serves as Dispater's headquarters and residence in the Nine Hells. Known by various names, it is often called the Iron Tower due to the metalwork of its doors and windows, or because it symbolizes Dispater's rigid rule. The tower is visible from any point in the city at all times, but this is not due to its massive size. No matter where one is in the city, except for the Garden of Delights, the tower always appears to be just a block away, yet it seems impossible to reach. Only the Betezu have an instinctive ability to navigate this dimensional anomaly without needing to teleport closer. To approach the Iron Tower and make real progress, one must remove it from their mind, either by focusing intensely on something unrelated or by avoiding looking at it. After a half an hour of travel, assuming one isn't scalded by the burning iron throughout Dis, they will find themselves before the Iron Tower. The structure stands as an even stranger sight than the city around it, with its form constantly changing. It is always an unattractive black structure made of stone, steel, lead, and carved bone, enveloped in a haze of smoke. However, its texture, architectural style, and basic structure are in a state of perpetual flux, shifting minute by minute from a squat dome to a slender spire, and possibly even a giant stalactite. At its tallest, it can reach so far into the sky that one cannot see the top. The interior of the Iron Tower is as indefinable as its exterior, but remains more consistent to those inside and generally resembles any other place in Dis. The rooms maintain their shape and are magically arranged to always fit within the tower. Instead of being connected by corridors, each room is a pocket separated by at times several miles of iron. Navigation is straightforward for beings who can teleport and are familiar with the tower, but other methods, like passing through solid material or teleporting without proper guidance, can result in ending up over a gaping hole or inside a solid wall. The Iron Tower houses numerous labyrinths and prisons, as well as libraries where Dispater spends most of his time. If he wishes, he can create new mazes and passageways to confuse and evade his enemies. Some areas of the tower share its anomalous spatial properties and can send those unaware of the secret back to where they started, including the corridor to Dispater's inner sanctum. Only his most trusted servants know how to enter without his personal assistance. For those needing to conduct business within the tower, but lacking the means to navigate it, black flowers made from the spirits of petitioners can be used. Each petal bears a symbol representing a corresponding room. By tearing off a petal and placing it on a solid boundary inside the tower, one is transported to the designated room through an effect similar to a portable hole. The primary function of the Iron Tower is to protect its highly paranoid ruler, Dispater. It is heavily guarded by monsters and constructs, and filled with deadly traps both inside and out, all designed to safeguard Dispater. The tower's overwhelming aura renders spells that detect law, evil, or magic unable to pinpoint specific sources within it, and it is far too powerful for dispel magic spells to have any effect. Even without these numerous protections, Dispater is nearly invulnerable within the Iron Tower. Weapons pass through him, spells fizzle out, and even wish magic is ineffective against his avatars. Dispater stands slightly taller than a normal human, with dark hair and sable skin, as cold and hard as iron. His infernal nature is evident through his glowing eyes, small horns, pointed tail, and cloven left hoof. The devilishly handsome Archduke always dresses in the finest attire, such as red robes or velvet gloves, and wields a mace-like rod. As a master strategist and expert in intrigue, Dispater is known as the most meticulously calculating of the archdevils. His personal safety is always his top priority, and catching him off guard would mean outwitting one of the most clever and resourceful beings in existence. Every action in his dominion is marked by patient, cunning, and unwavering discretion. While he, like other archdevils, schemes to take over the Nine Hells, he avoids taking significant risks, not out of fear or insecurity, but because of his unique understanding of the system. Dispater views reality as an enigmatic game with unclear rules, assessing the value of everything based on how it might help him uncover its true nature. By solving the mysteries of the multiverse, he aims to control the Nine Hells, and ultimately, all of reality. He possesses numerous secret techniques in mining and forging, making him the greatest weapon supplier in Hell and possibly the multiverse, an important figure to devils in war-torn Avernus. The opportunity to learn a new secret is one of the few things that might compel him to act against the other archdevils. Despite his analytical nature, he exudes a diabolical charisma and maintains remarkable self-control. He is calm and composed, delivering persuasive and reasonable arguments with the courtesy of a true gentleman. His ability to suppress his anger, even when it burns fiercely within him, makes him a dangerous and cunning opponent. However, beneath Dispater's sophisticated exterior and refined attire lies a tyrant's iron fist, much to the dismay of the predatory members of his court. He is a malicious manipulator whose gentle words are laced with deceit, and his acts of supposed charity are always politically motivated. Unlike other archdevils, he rarely forces others to do his bidding, preferring to twist them into unwittingly carrying out his will. Even when committing acts of unspeakable evil, his chivalrous facade never wavers, and if someone manages to break his ironclad stoicism, he would rather destroy them than risk exposure. Recently, a flaw has appeared in his seemingly invincible defense. His constant vigilance has slowly turned into anxiety and paranoia. Unless absolutely necessary, he never leaves his city or even his tower, fearing a fate like Geryon or Moloch before him. He trusts no one, finds surprises deeply unpleasant, and goes out of his way to assert his authority. The gloomy archdevil's paranoia influences his every action, and the ever-cautious archdevil has at least 9 escape routes and backup plans at any given time. The Iron Duke's touch can produce 2 devastating effects, each powerful on its own, but even more formidable when combined. The first effect allows him to turn flesh into iron, rendering almost any organic foe an inert statue. The second effect rapidly corrodes metal, transforming a cube of material into useless fragments in an instant. Only the most skilled warriors can retract their weapon after striking him without it turning to dust, though magical metal can resist his power, and non-metal items are completely immune. One of his favorite tactics involves turning an enemy into a metal statue before rusting them into oblivion. Unfortunately for those who seek to fight him, Dispater always acts defensively, creating scalding gates of steel and walls of deadly chains to hold back attackers while he summons aid. Typically, he already has minions to fight on his behalf, ranging from Maragon grunts to moderately dangerous war devils and even pit fiends who keep the enemy occupied while he assesses their strength. Though pit fiends are his first choice for summoning, he is also known to use Achaierai, and other devils might be called upon depending on the situation, such as Oceluths, Barbazus, Hornigons, or Gelugons. Dispater's words themselves are powerful, and if he cannot persuade someone with their content, he will do so with their magical nature. He uses suggestion spells to create distance, and in combat, he sections off powerful adversaries from their allies to dominate them uninterrupted. He can also blast opponents back with thunderous speech or utter an unholy word. He possesses a range of other abilities, such as creating a symbol of pain, surrounding himself with a terrifying aura, and inducing a fear or chilling effect with his gaze. It is also said that those who attack him are forced to relive their own worst memories in excruciating detail, whether it be losing a brawl or the supreme humiliation of a celestial's fall from grace. If a battle turns against him despite his careful planning, he wastes no time teleporting away. Dispater's rod, rumored to have been empowered at the same time as the Iron Tower, is both a potent magical artifact and his symbol of ultimate authority. It is made of iron, lead, and adamantine, and shaped like 2 intertwined serpents. The rod functions as both a rod of rulership and a powerful staff of striking, allowing the wielder to smite the forces of good and spew stinging acid. Focused on defense, Dispater often equips his magical iron shield and has been developing a suit of adamantine armor. This armor is imbued with numerous enchantments known only to him, capable of thwarting magic, allowing survival in the most hostile environments and achieving a host of other unknown effects. The intricate layout of the Iron City results in part from the constant construction work imposed on its inhabitants. Work crews consisting of shades, who have had their memories restored to fully appreciate their suffering, lemurs, and other forms of petitioners, are overseen by Perft Abishai and directed by Spinagon foremen. These crews are involved in the endless tasks of extending, contracting, remodeling, reconstructing, and repairing the city, much of which is regarded as pointless busy work. Shades are humanoids who have merged with the essence of shadow stuff, trading their very souls for enhanced physical abilities, protection from harm, and immortality. Although their size varies based on their original race and stature, shades generally appear more slender than other humanoids. Their skin looks lifeless, ranging in color from ash gray to black, becoming darker with age. They have black eyes and sharp teeth resembling fangs. Initially, shades were not born, but created through one or more magical processes. Though esoteric, these processes involve becoming touched and overcome by the magic native to the Shadowfell. Once created, shades return to Toril and reproduce like any other species. Becoming a shade is also possible by completing a ritual in the Fane of Shadows, the Temple of Shar that shifts in and out of the prime-material plane. Despite their transformation, shades possess free will and are not inherently evil, although they often align with malevolent leaders or causes. Generally calm and calculating, they prefer to act without drawing attention. The Shades of Thultan Thar have an insulated society, separated from that of neighboring realms. They are a cold and aloof people who keep old and often outdated sensibilities. A select few are chosen as ambassadors of the Enclave and dispatched to speak for their people in foreign lands. Shades often prefer drab, dull-colored attire, while those from Thultan Thar wear otherworldly attire that seems strange to the people of Faerun. Shades grow more powerful in areas of darkness and shadow, but weaker when exposed to direct sunlight. They possess an inherent form of regeneration that can heal through the most grievous of wounds in moments, and are even capable of regrowing lost limbs while fully cloaked in shadows. A shade's regenerative powers can be negated by contact with radiant energy. They hold powers associated with the Shadowfell, such as the ability to leap from shadow to shadow, to create shadowy duplicates of themselves, and even to become entirely invisible. They can also decrease the amount of light in an area and can see through darkness, even of the magical variety. Shades are among the outsiders most generally feared across the breadth of Faerun. In turn, they believe themselves wholly superior to all material beings in existence. Netherese shades were first created through the research of Netherese wizards who left Faerun for the Plane of Shadow for research purposes long before the kingdom's fall at Karsus Folly in the 4th century before the Dale Reckoning. Following this journey, it is found that by removing a part of one's soul and replacing its essence with shadow, a shade can be created. This is an extremely complex and painful process, but the result is a being with prolonged life and a greatly strengthened set of abilities when in the presence of shadows. Like the Shadowvar of Netheril, many Ashoe of Chult also become shades, particularly priests of Ashodo, the Shadow Giant, and mages who are members of the Abuya Dameshoa. In the year of Wild Magic 1372, the Netherese enclave of Thultan Thar, then home to many shades in service to Shar, returned to Faerun after centuries in the Plane of Shadow. As directed by the city's princes of Shade, a select few Shadowvar citizens of Thultan Thar were rewarded for their immense loyalty to the city by being made into shades. Some adventurers of the Forgotten Realms thus take up the mantle of shade hunters, vowing to stop the Netherese shades and hinder their efforts to recreate their ancient empire at all costs. It is said the reason the City of Pain, also known as Dis, changes so quickly, both supernaturally and in the form of work crew orders, is that it reflects the inner workings of Dispater's mind. Despite being theoretically infinite, those inside always feel cramped and trapped, and the more paranoid Dispater is, the tighter and more Warren-like the city's streets become. With the overwhelming presence of recently added scrying devices, the walls have ears, and the red eyes of the statues move. While the city is thoroughly unpleasant, its primary focus is industry rather than military, and it is one of the most accommodating places in the Nine Hells towards outsiders. Most outside dealings are conducted in an area known as the Fetters, so called because the outsiders that find themselves there can no longer seem to leave. Rare information is granted to the highest bidder. Decent food and taverns mimicking those of the prime material form a tourist economy, and the bazaars and foundries buy and sell arms, armor, artistry, magical items, and infernal mercenaries. While thief gangs and crime lords fight over control of the sprawling slums, Dispater still ultimately controls it through his spies and informants. Through special provisions added to contracts made in Dis, he appropriates a portion of every shady deal and contraband trade, whether it is made with devils, night hags, Rakhshasas, succubi, or other fiends. Ever since the catastrophe that was the Reckoning, Dispater rarely leaves the safety of his iron tower, much less his city, only exiting if forced to by Asmodeus and always returning as fast as possible. He governs his realm through intermediaries and aspects and relies on minions to do his bidding. His servants are scattered throughout the 9 hells, all working towards some elaborate end. Achaierai serve as his messengers and heralds, but he also makes use of imp envoys with messages sewn into vests designed to destroy both the messenger and message if removed by the wrong person. There was a major rebellion in the 9 hells called the Reckoning, or the Reckoning of Hell, orchestrated by powerful archdevils attempting to overthrow Asmodeus as ruler. The conflict significantly reshaped the political landscape across Baator, beginning in Avernus and spreading through the other layers up to Maladomini. In the early days of the blood war against demons, archdevils could more freely move troops between Hell's layers. Internal power struggles caused them to split into 2 opposing factions, one led by Mephistopheles, Mammon, Dispater, and Geryon, and the other by Balzabul, Zariel, Belial, and Moloch. Each side aimed to defeat the other, and then to challenge Asmodeus' rule. The conflict began in earnest when Zariel attacked Dis, while Moloch and Belial invaded Stygia, maneuvering their armies on the pretense of targeting demons. Mephistopheles counterattacked Maladomini, while Mammon relieved the siege on Dis. This forced Zariel to retreat, and Balzabul to call for reinforcements, turning the tide of the battle. In Maladomini, 2 massive devil armies battled each other in an enormous conflict. Their archdevil leaders thought victory and deposing Asmodeus was near. However, Geryon had secretly remained loyal to Asmodeus. With the Pit Fiend commander's help, whom Geryon brought to his side, the 2 armies turned on and destroyed each other at Geryon's signal. Ultimately, Asmodeus emerged unharmed from the Reckoning. While many of the rebelling archdevils were punished, most kept their positions ruling in the 9 hells. Balzabul, who led the rebellion, was transformed into a worm-like creature. Mammon quickly switched sides to stay in Asmodeus' favor, though the other archdevils distrusted him. Mephistopheles also maintained his rulership. The Reckoning caused some power shifts. Balzabul lost rulership of Malbolgi, which went to Asmodeus' daughter Glacia on the condition she end her relationship with Mammon. All of Malbolgi's formerly loyal dupes were demoted. Asmodeus rewarded the Pit Fiend generals who stayed loyal, creating the Dark Eight. One Pit Fiend, Bel, was promoted to commander of Avernus' armies, setting him up to later overthrow the current ruler, Zariel. With every archdevil who falls, Dispater's already profound paranoia grows, and his methods become more extreme. For instance, the unpredictable and sudden fall of the hag countess to Glacia, seemingly with the support of her father, drove Dispater even deeper into the depths of his tower. After that, he double-checked his exits, quadrupled his guards, and increased the layers of intermediaries he communicates through, only directly seeing his most trusted servitors and instructing half of his servants to spy on the other half for treachery. Zariel's triumph over Bel only exacerbated the situation, causing him to take up residence deep within his libraries. He leaves daily governance and negotiation with mortal summoners to his herald, Tytavilis, who also oversees a spy network to monitor potential threats to Dispater. Dispater's primary focus is always on consolidating his current power, and his plans can take generations to achieve results. After Glacia's ascension, he tried to slowly drive out the voluntary planar residents from his city through harassment, taxation, and surveillance, convinced they are all sources of potential treachery. As for offensive objectives, his main mission is the elimination of Balzabul. The two constantly engage in wars of intrigue and expertly played politics, preventing the Iron Duke from further expansion, or at least that's how it appears on the surface. His favored servitors are Achaierai, natives to Dis appreciated not only for their beauty, but for their unfaltering fealty and competence, trade sought through traps, tests, and demonstrably excellent service. They earn increased influence throughout Dis, and are rewarded for displaying such characteristics. Patrolling Dis from the skies, his Aayis head towards the city and alert others when spotting intruders. If they are already in a group, one will leave and the rest will attack. They carefully observe enemy numbers and appearance before leaving and might seek to capture rather than kill them, since as with their peers, entities and items that can increase his standing are something Dispater always desires, and destroying something he might potentially want is a quick way to gain his anger. His chief Aayis is the horribly scarred disciple, Usterin Ja, a paranoid devil that is loyal to and only trusts Dispater. Besides the Aayis, Dispater employs constructs such as iron golems to do his bidding, the most famous and recent of which is Talos, procured by Dispater through unknown means. The ancient golem was wrongly thought to be created by him, but nonetheless it does obey his commands. Labored in by Stench Kows and Spinagons and home to Mephits, Achaierai, and Rakhshasas are the great estates of Dispater's dukes, set between the Iron City and the distant Hills of Dis. The Rakhshasas occasionally earn leadership positions in such households, but are too independent and ambitious to be left unwatched. The Stench Kow is a species of bison native to the lower plains. These creatures bear a resemblance to standard bison, but their bodies are misshapen. They have lumps over their shoulders, with bulls possessing the largest ones, and long horns that curve downwards. Their heads are huge, with pugged features, large round eyes, and lolling tongues. Their fur is largely a dull orange, with a matted greenish mane. Stenchkine are very hardy compared to average bison, able to withstand severe cold, heat, and poison, as well as poisonous clouds of both a mundane and magical nature. The name Stench Kow is derived from their breath and bodies having terribly foul odors, so horrible that being close to them can cause poisoning, similar to the stinking cloud spell. These creatures possess basic animal-level intelligence. They fight by charging at and attempting to trample other creatures. Like their prime-material cousins, they travel in grazing herds. They feed upon much of the noxious and poisonous growths throughout the lower plains, such as bloodthorn and stinkweed. Stenchkine are found only in the lower plains, being the most common in the 9 hells, but can also be found in Acheron, Gehenna, and Hades. Many archdevils are known to possess herds of Stenchkine. Their horns can be used as an alternative ingredient for crafting potions of fire resistance, and the Infernal Rapture restaurant in Avernus often serves cheeses made from their milk. Mephits are small imp-like extraplanar outsider creatures originating from various elemental planes. They are roughly humanoid in appearance, around 4 feet tall, with lanky limbs extending from hunched torsos. Their exact disposition depends on their plane of origin, though they are universally capricious tricksters who delight in vulgar behavior and pestering others. Mephits come in diverse elemental types like dust, ice, magma, mud, smoke, and steam, corresponding to combinations of fire, water, air, and earth elements. Each type's appearance reflects its elemental nature. Steam Mephits trail hot air. Magma Mephits have burning lava-drip skin. They prefer environments suited to their elements. Mephits congregate in mobs of up to 50 individuals of the same type, distrusting all others. Within mobs, they act independently and selfishly, with no designated leaders except rare Mephits able to summon more of their kind. Mobs persist through environmental protection, and individuals move between multiple mobs. Mephits require no food, drink, or sleep, being elemental creatures. Though not inherently evil, they are highly impressionable and eager to please masters and shift alignment to better serve them, potentially becoming malicious under evil beings. They mock, steal, and use breath weapons, dealing minor elemental damage to annoy others, but retreat if outmatched due to cowardice. Their rudeness can backfire. Mephits' other abilities include clawing, biting, and elemental effects like softening earth. Mephits rarely know common, conveying mockery through gesture. They disdain non-elemental creatures, seeing even elementals as inferior cousins. Sometimes wizards use them as disloyal familiars. Their bodies are capable of regenerating quickly. Beyond the elemental planes, all Mephit varieties are found in the domains of dread. Their guano has magical properties for enchanting items, but carrying guano items is frowned upon for the stench scaring people away. The guano can also explode into deadly stinking clouds when thrown. In small numbers, they are irritating, but their breath weapons and swarms make mobs deadly foes. Achaierai are a race of fowl native to Acheron that are also known to inhabit the Barrens of Doom and Despair. They are extremely large, about 3 times the size of a normal human and weighing a proportionate amount. They are quadrupeds with stilt-like legs that emerge from their underside, ending in wicked talons. Withered, rudimentary wings rest on either side of their spherical, pony-sized heads. Their crests are almost always bright red, but can be of any color, as their soft feathers vary from dim teal to shadowed gold and burnt russet in their muted hue. Their legs are metallic blue-gray, and along with their claws and beak, shine like burnished metal. Achaierai are cunning predators with a disposition for torture and yet a strange sense of justice. They are tribalistic and incredibly organized, seeking vengeance on those they believe wrong their kin and able to devise new, inventive strategies to torment others for centuries. In times of crisis, an Achaierai will abandon and even attack their brethren if need be and avoid other members of their kind when weak and vulnerable. They can only be killed by striking at their main, vulnerable bodies, but attacking their iron legs can cripple them. A damaged leg is rendered temporarily useless until they can recover from their injuries, but a powerful swing from an edged weapon can permanently sever their appendages. Injured legs can regenerate over the course of 1 or 2 days, while detached limbs never grow. They are just as fast with 3 legs as they are with 4, but their speed halves when missing 2, and they can only crawl with 1. They can breathe a black cloud of toxic gas 3 times a day that inflicts any non-Achaierai with madness and confusion for 3 hours. They are naturally resistant to magical effects. Although their beaks are just as dangerous as their claws, their great height prevents them from pecking at human-sized opponents, while also stopping such foes from harming their main bodies in return. If an opponent is over 10 feet tall, or elevated to that height, they can strike them with their beaks. They are skilled combatants, targeting whichever enemy appears the most dangerous with 2 of their claws and attacking as a group. Because of their size, only 2 can engage a human-sized opponent at the same time, but their long strides and mobility allow them to attack and retreat before their enemy can counter. If one member's leg is crippled, they attempt to escape while the rest of the flock fights, and they save their black cloud until 3 legs are injured, using it as a smoke screen. Their last resort is to unleash the rust dragons living in their lair as diversions so that the surviving flock can escape. They are social creatures that form flocks of 2 to 8 members, but lack any true society. Weak flock members are cannibalized in times of scarcity, and 90% of the time, they possess no leader. Achaierai flock leaders are simply larger, more powerful members of their kind. Flock gatherings and interactions are common, especially during their migrations. When a flock decides to migrate to another cube in Avernus, they attach a harness to their rust dragons and fly to their destination. Rust dragons display a strange affection towards the birds, mimicking that between dogs and humans when raised by them. They learn to tolerate the presence of other members of their kind. Achaierai occasionally gather and tend to the cocoons of rust dragons, and the resulting hatchling creates tunnels in Acheron's black cubes, which the Achaierai make their lairs. On the material plane, Achaierai and underground races like the Drow and Deep Gnomes mutually exterminate one another. They devour the populations and livestock of underground villages, rightfully invoking fear and disgust in natives of the Underdark. Although occasionally found in material plane caverns, they are mostly found on Ovalis or Thuldanan, only leaving their underground lairs under cover of night. Their nesting areas are made in locations with several small chambers, and disturbing such sites invokes their wrath. They mate for life, even when their partners are infertile, and threatening their mates prompts the same reaction as doing so to their nesting sites. Mated couples produce a clutch of 2 eggs each year, but are incapable of reproducing on the material plane. Clutchmates have a high likelihood of attacking and killing one another, but upon reaching maturity at 3 years old, they can normally speak all bird languages as well as plain speak. Their actual lifespans are disputed, with some sources claiming they live for about 30 years, while others purport they are extremely long-lived. They feast on flesh, regardless of whether it is fresh, fetid, scavenged, hunted, or even a member of their own kind. Their massive size requires them to eat a large amount of meat each day, and their diets are supplemented with enough iron to make their legs metallic. The play Achaierophobia is a classic work of the playwright and mindsmith named C. Emmett Runn, based on the true story of a grey elf biologist named Fionara Silverbane. Her attempt to catalog all lawful bird life met an end when she was ambushed and tortured for centuries by Achaierai after disturbing the corpse of one of their flockmates. She wrote down centuries' worth of observations in her journal, but after finally escaping to Sigil and giving her notes to the grandson of a deceased friend, she succumbed to madness and believed the Achaierai were still secretly plotting to break her. It is said that Achaierai were summoned to the material plane for a long-forgotten reason, attacking anyone they encountered. This behavior is sometimes attributed to the madness of their original summoners, who must have perished long ago. Rakhshasas are a dignified race of duplicitous outsiders that mostly dwell on the material plane. They are reviled as devious sorcerers, political puppeteers, and thought to be the embodiment of evil. The true form of a Rakshasa is almost never seen due to their ability to assume almost any humanoid figure, but their lavish taste ensures they are almost always wearing the finest garments and most precious jewelry. Their true forms are most commonly humanoids, with the heads of tigers and luxurious fur to match their attire, although it's not unusual for them to possess the heads and features of carnivorous apes, crocodiles, or mantises, with high-ranking Rakshasas rumored to have multiple heads. One Rakshasa, known as Inther Blackfeather of Luskan, even possesses a scorpion's tail. The eyes of a Rakshasa can range from the golden black slits of a feline to protruding, multifaceted spheres of insects, but always contain a fiendish glimmer of disturbing, infernal intellect. However, their most unnerving and unique feature is their reversed hands. The palms of a Rakshasa face out from the body when the arms are at rest, and the finger joints bend backwards to grasp and manipulate objects. They're slightly taller than the average human, with those of lower rank being shorter. Their build and weight is typical for a humanoid. Disconcerting others with their unnervingly structured hands shows only a fraction of a Rakshasa's true malevolence, as their evil matches that of devils, and their greed surpasses them. Their beastly appearance hides a refined personality with an insatiable desire for power and wealth. They blend the behaviors of a predatory aristocat with those of a lazy cat, enjoying the finest art, music, literature, clothing, weapons, and armor, while often lounging in their luxuries and prowling unnoticed. Powerful magic, forgotten spells, arcane books, and secret knowledge, especially of the malevolent kind, captivate these sorcerers. Slaves are collected like any other piece of art, expected to satisfy every desire of their cruel masters. This only feeds the already inflated ego of Rakshasas, an arrogance they show to all who know their true identity. They use their shape-shifting abilities to appear as nobles, cardinals, merchant princes, crime lords, and other influential figures. They use their inherent charm to gather numerous minions, lackeys, servants, and henchmen, and despite their pride, they excel in deceit. They disguise not only their forms, but also their involvement in events, manipulating political situations, creating elaborate plots, and fostering government corruption to ensure their safety. Their natural cunning is boosted by their supernatural powers, but tempered by their peculiar sense of honor, as they, like devils, adhere strictly to agreements while ignoring their spirit to betray their supposed allies. Instead of stealing from other powerful beings, Rakshasas prefer to rob the poor and needy, using their assumed authority to acquire riches and items from those who need them most. Their ability to gain control and rise to power while causing others to fall fills them with pride and joy. They plot the downfall of a mortal's family, take everything they possess, and ruin their reputation through vicious slander, but their greatest pleasure comes from turning a model citizen society against them by exposing hidden truths. Upon gaining independence, a young Rakshasa typically tries to establish its own territory far from others, using their disguise skills to carefully investigate a region for years while remaining inconspicuous. They instinctively seek out hideaways, safe houses, and secret lairs from which to conduct their schemes and showcase their wealth, their lives often alternating between periods of indulgent pleasure and strict discipline. Thieves' guilds, mercenary companies, business fronts, or temples to neutral deities serve as suitable covers, and if none are available, the Rakshasa will create one. Simultaneously, they search for individuals with weak wills, dark secrets, and deep fears, gathering every possible detail about their hidden vices through their mind-reading abilities and pre-established connections. If bribery and temptation fail, they resort to extortion and slander, threatening to ruin the target's life if they do not comply. Spies and informants are monitored by more reliable and easily controlled servants. As their ruthless criminal empires expand, those under their control, whether victims of their greed or willing servants, find the Rakshasas' demands increasingly unreasonable and time-consuming. Most focus on self-improvement. Despite already being far superior to ordinary mortal casters, they strive to enhance their sorceress abilities. If not personally studying magic or seeking sources of arcane power, some sponsor adventuring parties under the guise of interested individuals or organizations, sending these groups on quests to obscure locations or supposedly dangerous regions. Their natural sorcery abilities render them capable of a wide variety of enchantment and illusion spells to deceive their enemies and read minds at will. Most magic is ineffective against them, as only some of the most powerful spells can affect them unless they allow it. Only potent, enchanted weapons can harm them properly, but piercing weapons that have been blessed, or potentially those wielded by virtuous creatures, are particularly effective. Blessed crossbow bolts and arrows are said to instantly kill them, but they must be pierced through the heart with such weapons to truly slay them. Rakshasas can shapeshift indefinitely, and their new forms cannot be magically dispelled, although true sight can reveal their true nature, and they revert to normal upon death. Their claws carry a magical curse that haunts the minds of those struck with nightmares and terrifying visions, preventing them from resting properly unless the curse is removed. In the repertoire of a Rakshasa, their most potent weapon is their mastery of misdirection. Using their expertise in deceit, they ensnare their enemies in webs of falsehoods. Their illusory powers and vast array of potential identities make even recognizing their existence a challenge, and defeating them requires skill and careful planning. Powerful divination magic is needed to dispel their supernatural deceptions, but they often prevail without a direct confrontation. Rakshasas maintain extensive networks of corrupt officials and powerful bodyguards, allowing only their most loyal and trustworthy minions close to them. Only a select few of their closest aides are aware of their true form, so enchantment magic is often needed to incite betrayal among the servitors. Rakshasas fight cunningly from behind their numerous protections, using magic to enhance their speed and defenses. They attempt to use their enchantment magic to avoid combat entirely and target spellcasters who typically cannot harm them. Often they masquerade as allies of their prey, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Unless shielded by a spell like Mind Blank or Non-Detection, they instantly sense the location of thinking creatures. To decipher an adversary's surface thoughts, they need to focus on a specific area for a few moments, forcing them to stay nearby while trying to discern their intentions. When under attack, they rarely use their mind reading openly, instead employing hit-and-run tactics to move to a safe area and read their enemies' plans, allowing them to adjust their strategies as needed. Offensive magic is usually reserved as a last resort, and they generally disdain physical fighting as they see it as beneath them. Contrary to their elusive nature, they fight valiantly and fiercely when cornered, proving themselves dangerous in melee combat. Their reversed hands do not hinder their dexterity, enabling them to wield weapons effectively, a necessary skill since their shape-changing prevents them from using their teeth and claws. Rakshasas trained as warriors pounce like tigers with their blades, while archers are equally deadly. However, most take every measure to avoid physical confrontation, and if possible, will immediately abandon melee to continue casting spells from a distance, attempting to blind and confuse their attackers to escape. Rakshasa communities on the outer planes are protected by greater Rakshasas, or Roops, a term meaning knight, who are skilled warriors with great speed and martial skill. About 15% of Rakshasas are Roops, and 15% of these Roops are Rajas, meaning lords, who lead clans. Additionally, 5% of Rajas are Maharajas, meaning dukes, who oversee several small interrelated clans or a singular massive one. These island societies consist of hundreds of members, with the duke as the undisputed leader. However, dukes often serve under even more dangerous entities, and in the absence of a Maharaja, a Raja runs the clan. The Rakshasas of Acheron are notorious, residing in hidden cubes concealed by powerful illusion magic. Each clan kidnaps petitioners and planewalkers to serve as slaves in their palaces, aiming to impress the Maharaja who rules over all Rakshasas on the plane. Reports on Rakshasa society have been contradictory, although this is fitting for beings of deception. Early accounts describe a rigid caste system where individuals cannot rise to the ranks, while later descriptions depict a meritocracy based on cunning and ruthless immorality, with Rakshasas waging conspiratorial wars against each other. Enslavement, whether of Rakshasa or others, indicates power, and political battles and in the death or domination of the losers. As Rakshasas grow in reputation and prestige, they gain noble titles like Rukh and Raja, reaching Maharaja status after successfully conquering all their neighbors in the region. Female Rakshasas, known as Rakshasi, raise children independently of males, imparting crucial lessons about their society. Rakshasi are strict disciplinarians, balancing rigorous and ruthless tests with generous praise. This approach likely stems from the patriarchal nature of their society, where females are expected to be loyal, childbearing spouses, raising powerful offspring. The Rakshasi population ranges from being equal to males to being 3 times larger, and males often have harems. Understanding the nature of power is a key part of a Rakshasa's education, teaching them that those in power can retract their gifts as easily as they bestow them. Once they mature, they quickly establish their criminal empires. Typically, they speak Common and Infernal, occasionally learning Sylvan and Undercommon. Even in their true form, they are not as they first appear. They are immortal, fiendish spirits, bound to the material plane in fleshly guises, so innately deceptive, their essence can be used in potions of illusion. Despite their immorality, death is excruciatingly painful for a Rakshasa, as it means wandering the lower planes as an incorporeal being, enduring unending agony while waiting for their bodies to reform. Rakshasas retain their memory, power, and vitality after death, but the process of reforming can take anywhere from days to years and places them in a completely random location. By the time they return, the mortals who have wronged them may have already died. If unable to take vengeance on their killers, Rakshasas often target their kin or allies instead. Slaying a Rakshasa banished to the lower planes destroys them permanently, but on the material plane, they can be killed by driving blessed weapons through their hearts. A new generation is born every century to replace their fallen predecessors, allowing the race to continue spreading. The Imaskaran arcane tome of the Ring records a recipe for a ring of regeneration, requiring fenberries, a Rakshasa's eye, and the Melf's acid arrow spell. Rakshasas engage in tormenting, deceiving, and killing humans to consume their flesh, which they consider a delicacy. They prefer their meat as raw as possible, especially while it is still living. Their meals are flavored with exotic spices and accompanied by unusual side dishes and other expensive, choice foods that most mortals would find disgusting. Although they lack natural predators, aside from trained hunters and mortal victims seeking revenge, their numbers are speculated to be few, possibly smaller than those of dwarves. They prefer tropical jungles, swamps, and island environments, even when on other planes. Chaotic Rakshasas can be found in the blood-red tropics of the 500th layer of the Abyss or the toxic archipelagos of Budra. Despite countless documented cases of Rakshasas influencing prime material politics, the known examples represent only a small portion of their deceitful exploits. Scholars investigating their sinister schemes discover connections to the downfall of several organizations, merchant houses, and churches, the investigation of unspeakable tragedies, and the collapse of entire governments. Eliminating investigating scholars is one of the few occasions when Rakshasas unite. Their exact origins remain shrouded in mystery and legend, with the proud and insidious Rakshasas themselves ensuring that their history is confusing and contradictory, if they even know it. Rumors suggest that Arcanoloths were originally demons banished from the Abyss for their deceptiveness, and they were ancestors of Rakshasas and Ravastas. Rakshasas strongly dispute these stories, dismissing them as slurs against their honorable race and accusations of degeneracy. Another theory claims that Rakshasas resulted from an infernal ritual in Baator, made from an enigmatic but powerful race of devils attempting to escape their plane. Indeed, Rakshasas exhibit various hallmarks of devilish descent, and a popular idea is that they were created from a union of ancient fiendish animals and devils. It remains entirely possible that they are a distinct race of fiends, as their unique form of malevolence sets them apart. Many less specific legends simply state that they originate from a distant land, spreading like a poverty-inducing plague to corrupt and drain every society they encounter. Some tales suggest that these terror-inducing fiends are the very manifestation of mortal nightmares. The Rakshasa serve the lesser god Ravanna, a 10-headed being embodying their ideals of decadence, cunning, and narcissism. Most clerics are chosen by Ravanna based on his needs and desires rather than seeking to serve him, and ignoring commands from his great priests is considered practically suicidal by those who know of him. Ravanna commands his followers to rule and expand from the shadows, giving his clergy the appearance of a secret criminal organization. He is not opposed to selecting members of other races for his priesthood. Prayers to Ravanna are typically long-winded and sycophantic, emphasizing the speaker's insignificance. His devotees often carry personal shrines for daily sacrifices of blood and coin, using their natural armaments, which are both artistic and ornate, yet easily concealable. Within the abyss, chaotic evil Rakshasas are known to serve another lesser god named Kali. The demon lord Fraz Urblu, Prince of Deception, also commands a significant number of chaotic evil Rakshasas, known as the Hollow Rajas. Ravanna is both diabolical and indulgent, a massive egoist who demands only the best and rules with a blend of subtlety and opulence. He is a cruel, demanding master whose towers and sites of worship are unfathomably ornate, constructed out of precious metals and adorned with wickedly impressive artistry. His vanity matches his cunning intelligence and predatory patience. Ravanna's clergy operates like a mix of a criminal syndicate and a sinister cult, constantly driven to subjugate and expand their influence without ever revealing their true nature. His non-Rakshasa allies include the inquisitive Oceloths and capricious Hellcats, both of which he dispatches to respond to planar ally requests. Hellcats, also known as Bezekiras, are feline hunters that stalk the 9 hells. While they obey their master's whims, they are notoriously independent and willing to change loyalties in an instant. Some Hellcats resemble lions, while others appear as tiger-sized domestic cats. They are invisible in light, moving with silent grace. In total darkness, they appear as faint, wraith-like outlines, with bodies seemingly composed of bright light and flickers of fire. Low-light vision assists in visualizing them. However, magical darkness conceals them by smothering this light in shadows. Their malevolent eyes and fangs glow crimson, and it is rumored that one can see the fires of hell if they look deep enough into their eyes. Bezekiras lack the charm typically associated with felines, but possess an abundance of their more infuriating traits, the most dangerous being their capriciousness. While they serve under other beings, aiding in wicked acts, they remain completely independent at heart. They are quick to abandon their current masters for a superior one, and will attack former masters without hesitation, betraying new lords as easily as the previous ones. They always prioritize obeying Betezu above all others, but their loyalty to individual Betezu remains flexible. The primary criterion they use to judge mortals as potential masters is alignment. They only follow those committed to the ideals of law and evil, avoiding those of non-lawful evil alignments. They may attempt to convert those drifting towards evil to their alignment. They prefer masters who are priests and clerics, followed by specialized casters, regular casters, fighters, and lastly rogues. If not properly fed, Hellcats will turn on their owners and make them their meals. When given 2 equally desirable options for masters, Hellcats will decide randomly. They are considered creatures of lower intelligence by human standards and are regarded as disposable tools in Baator. Despite their incorporeal appearance, physical contact with the Hellcat is possible, and they fight using tooth and claw. They are resistant to magic and enchanted weapons, but can be harmed normally with holy water or bless spells, and can be kept at bay firmly by displaying holy items. The feline independence of a Bezekira is so strong it provides them with supernatural protection against all mind-affecting magic. They move with near silence, constantly on the prowl for opportunities to commit evil acts. In battle, they typically pounce on their enemies, favoring cunning tactics such as ambushes over brute force. They leave beings of evil alignment alone or scout them as potential masters, while those of good alignment are killed. Hellcats have a unique ability to sense an individual's power, allowing them to evaluate potential masters before telepathically offering their aid. Despite their capricious nature, compelling a Hellcat to betray its master is difficult. Outside of introducing a superior lawful evil power, one must wait for the bond to break naturally. A Bezekira remains on the material plane for only a year and a day before returning to Hell at the place they were first summoned. They return at midnight on the last day and know the exact time of their departure, allowing them to plan with their masters. After 2 weeks, they can return to the material plane, but they do not always reappear where they left, and their bond with their previous master is not automatically restored, requiring reacquisition of their services. They come into existence in 3 ways: through normal reproduction, as a punishment for a Batezu or as an uncommon reward for petitioners who perform acts of great evil in front of a lesser or greater devil. Those transformed into Hellcats often remain in this form for an extended period, regardless of whether it was a reward or punishment. Batezu transformed into Hellcats stay in their forms longer if they perform poorly, as a way to force them to learn how to use their form. Petitioners who continue to perform well are also kept in Hellcat form, which is considered vastly more favorable than demotion to Lemur or Nuparibo status. They are carnivores that completely devour their prey, terrorizing them beforehand to flavor their flesh with fear. They demand live human or demi-human victims once a week, requiring no other form of sustenance. They can be found on any layer of the 9 hells except Nessus, as Asmodeus neither employs them nor tolerates the presence of his servants' servants in his domain. In the howling snowstorms and darkened skies of Cania, they cannot rely on their usual invisibility. Instead, they use environmental hazards to their advantage, concealing themselves within blinding blizzards and moving unheard due to the deafening winds. They can still use their keen sense of smell to track their quarry in this frozen wasteland. They can also be found in the domains of dread. The primary purpose of Hellcats is to serve Hell's rulers by enacting the wills of lesser devils, often acting as associates and familiars. Their exact position in Hell's hierarchy is not fully understood, but they appear to be more specialized and better regarded than other infernal familiars. They are seen as capable spies and errand runners, though they are generally untrusted unless given protective duties, in which case they perform zealously to earn their master's favor. Specially trained Hellcats use their keen sense of smell to track enemies of Hell, venturing into areas where other fiendish forces are reluctant to go. Whether sent by their Batezu master or called by a foolish mortal, Bezekiras are occasionally released from their native Baatorian lair to stalk on the prime material plane. From there, they serve the interests of Hell by aiding powerful beings of lawful evil and converting others to the same alignment, a service that earns them unique rewards and duties upon their return. They are typically favored and summoned by disciples of Asmodeus and those of the halls of the Beast Tamers in Mithranor. Few priests of the god Ravanna are willing, and those who know of him often refuse service when requested. He assesses clerical candidates based on their abilities and his current goals, but those who deny his call, facing divine retribution or the wrath of a powerful priest he will send to fetch them. One such priest is the 5-headed herald Loliadoc, a Maharaja with the heads of an ape, crocodile, human, mantis, and tiger. As the long arm of Ravanna, he is tasked of leading the army of Ravanna's servitors throughout the Plane of Shadow, Material Plane, and Acheron on quests of vengeance. Although his temples are typically elaborate, they are few in number compared to the personal, exquisitely maintained shrines he mandates worshippers carry. Despite being well crafted, these shrines are portable and easily concealable, allowing his followers to bring them to their dinner areas and worship him. Daily sacrifices of blood and wealth are made with the worshippers' bare hands, whether Rakshasa or otherwise. Prayers to Ravanna are equal parts denigrating and sycophantic, consisting of long, obsequious praises of their master that depict the devotee as unworthy and pitiful. Ak'chazars are a breed of deadly Rakshasa necromancers. They possess the typical Rakshasa desire to dominate and extend their reach to the mastery of the dead. They appear as a normal Rakshasa, with the head of a white tiger and with a coat of ghost white fur. They are pragmatic manipulators, valued and respected by their kin for their fearsome intellects and clever ways, although often begrudgingly. They are as silver-tongued as their ordinary counterparts, and more skilled in diplomacy and invoking fear, but not as adept in the art of disguise. They lack the typical beguiling abilities of Rakshasas, being less skilled, but just as capable with their shapeshifting. They compensate for this with their more powerful spell casting. While they need spell components to cast, their specialization in enchantment and necromancy allows them to control the dead as easily as the living. In addition to their sorcerous powers, they have natural spell-like abilities that aid them in raising and commanding the dead, as well as capturing souls. Their ability to turn and command undead rivals the greatest clerics, and they can flood a nearby area with an aura of negative energy, inflicting painful wounds and striking fear in those caught by it. They also possess the power of flight. They preemptively learn as much about their potential opponents as possible before going into battle, using their spells to exploit their enemies' weaknesses and compensate for their strengths. Before battle, they cast spells like Mage Armor and Mirror Image, but are cautious creatures who always save enough power to cast Teleport if they need a quick escape. Knowing that their spells are far more valuable than their melee abilities, they avoid direct combat in favor of casting from a hidden position, often retreating to a new spot if discovered. They target individuals with weak wills, using domination and soul-trapping spells to permanently disable them or turn them against their allies, while attempting to disintegrate other spellcasters. They are rarely encountered alone. While they handle ranged enemies, often refraining from using overly destructive spells to keep the bodies intact for later use, their undead servants engage in close combat and are controlled using their rebuking ability. They might use a magic jar, ordering their servants to destroy a gem trapping the soul upon success, or use enervation and prepare magic missiles to thwart enemy casters. Like ordinary Rakshasas, they are insidious schemers who manipulate events from the shadows to achieve their goals of domination. They often use criminal syndicates through spies and intermediary agents, but also manipulate legitimate, though corrupt or ambitious, politicians. By offering useful advice, tempting them with power, or bribing them with treasures, Ak'chazars keep their pawns satisfied, slowly learning their personalities for later use. Once a Rakshasa has exhausted other uses for these individuals, they typically possess them using Magic Jar to further tighten their control over the region. Even other Rakshasas, whether out of fear or respect, and sometimes unknowingly, can find themselves subject to the whims of an Ak'chazar, aiding in their schemes while pursuing their own plans. Where they differ from their kin is their use of the dead. They travel the plains not only to conquer regions through political wars, but also to acquire new undead servitors. Whether corporeal or spectral, their undead retinue accompanies them and helps carry out their master's wishes. When creating undead with some level of autonomy, they do not simply force them into service, but strike deals, offering power or assistance in meeting their own wicked wants and needs in exchange for compliance. Palaces of war, famine, or pestilence, whether past or present, and massive graveyards are typical sites for an Ak'chazar's lair, providing access to a variety of corpses for experimentation. They prefer colder temperatures compared to the typical breed of Rakshasa, often dwelling in mountain regions. A pair of Ak'chazar Rakshasas are believed to have operated in Untalas during that city's occupation by Mulhorand. There have also been operatives found working in Simbar, Luthchek, and Surinar in Chesentha. Naztharunes are deadly Rakshasa, predatory killers with the heads of black tigers. Unmatched among their kind in the art of stalking prey, they combine the sinister mind of an ordinary Rakshasa with the skills of a trained assassin and a supernatural ability to move through shadows. They resemble ordinary Rakshasas, but have a night black coat of fur and wear darker apparel. They are shorter and lighter than their counterparts. They have a mercenary mindset, unhampered by the need to be in a position of authority. They are far more disciplined than their kin and open to working with others, able to suppress their scorn for non-Rakshasas when it benefits them. Nonetheless, they are cruel and cunning creatures, thought to be even more malicious than a typical Rakshasa. Unlike normal Rakshasas, Naztharunes lack spellcasting abilities, instead possessing the power to move between shadows. As long as 2 points are cloaked in darkness, Naztharunes can jump between them as if using a dimension door, phasing through any physical objects between. They are skilled rogues specializing in sneak attacks and evasion, combining these abilities with their razor-sharp senses to bridge the gap between them and their sorceress kin. They hide in the shadows and strike under the cover of darkness, sometimes working with others to further confuse and surround their enemies. Like normal Rakshasas, their backward hands do not hinder their manual skill, and they avoid attacking creatures without vital areas, such as constructs or undead. Using their Detect Thoughts ability to sense the presence of their targets while remaining unseen, they strike with the intent to kill before slipping back into the shadows. When tactics like daylight spells disrupt their strategy, they attack head-on, using shadows to escape if outmatched. Despite their solitary nature, Naztharunes willingly work with and under other Rakshasas, such as Ak'chazars, who use them as spies. They regularly cooperate with other Naztharunes if such activities are profitable. They are known to willingly serve races they consider inferior, offering their services as highly skilled assassins. In the late 14th century, a pair of Ak'chazar Rakshasas and Unther sent Naztharune agents to sow discord in the cities of Simbar, Luthchek, and Sorinar in nearby Chesenta, independently operating Naztharunes, are also active in Kalimport. Mahadi the Rakshasa is the master of the Wandering Emporium, which travels primarily across the plains of Avernus and the Nine Hells. He also runs his own restaurant, Infernal Rapture, located within a self-enclosed demi-plane that accompanies his traveling bazaar. Using his guise as a courteous host combined with his skill as an expert professional intermediary, Mahadi acts as an informant for his patron Asmodeus. Supremely charismatic and superficially gracious, he is a master manipulator who hosts and moderates various personalities that come to Avernus. Among his numerous possessions, he has a collection of soul coins containing the souls of previously defeated foes. He treats each coin as a confidant, coercing them for advice on his operations. In addition to his servants, who are bound to work in the Wandering Emporium, Mahadi commands an Arenyes named Elizabeth, who appears at his beck and call. While Infernal Rapture appears as a caravan tent on the outside, it is actually a demi-plane unto itself. It is not part of the Nine Hells, but accessible from Avernus through an infernal contract with the establishment's proprietor. Each guest or party is granted a private dining space lined with pillows and couches for perfect relaxation. The staff of Infernal Rapture are indentured to work under the influence of the spell Gias and are ecstatic in their servitude. Upon entry, every patron is required to sign an infernal contract stating that all goods and services must be paid for in full before they can leave the premises. Infernal Rapture offers a wide variety of exotic courses, originating from various planes across the multiverse. The food is exquisitely prepared, wholly delicious, and as nourishing as a meal provided by the spell Hero's Feast. Some dishes at Infernal Rapture include roasted and seasoned wereboar and candied phase spider eyes in a raspberry liquor reduction. Each meal costs a single infernal soul coin. Custom dishes can be ordered, but must be requested weeks before the reservation and cost 10 times the going rate. Spa services are complimentary for all guests of Infernal Rapture. These include manicures, pedicures, massages, and grooming. More unconventional services are available at the cost of a single soul coin each, offering therapies that influence a client's dreams, aging process, or overall health. The Emporium itself is a traveling bazaar of merchants, creatives, and miscreants that roams the Nine Hells. It is a welcoming place in the perilous and otherwise horrifying plane, and considered neutral ground, offering respite from many conflicts in Hell, most notably the Blood War. It travels across the Nine Hells, using 9 massive infernal war machines. When Mahadi decides to stop, these monstrous vehicles form a semicircular perimeter. Within this makeshift barricade, the market's vividly colored tents are set up, and the Emporium opens for business. It is illuminated by dangling lights, emanates exotic scents, and features rhythmic music that attracts nearby denizens and travelers. It has no permanent location, but moves around under Mahadi's direction. He primarily uses the Emporium to gather souls for his master Asmodeus. He presents mortals with an infernal contract that they must willingly sign. The contract grants them a boon, such as a powerful magical item or the resurrection of a loved one in exchange for their eternal soul. To fulfill this duty and complete his deals, Mahadi is permitted to travel openly between Avernus and the prime material plane. While in Avernus, the merchants of the Emporium offer various items for sale, such as hellish arms and armaments, demon ichor, Yugoloth larvae, a devilish courier service, currency exchange for soul coins, and even a barber run by a Kalashite woman named Bernie. The Emporium is occupied by merchants who peddle their goods and services, along with the devilish drivers who pilot the infernal war machines. Nearly all of them are indentured to Mahadi in some manner. Some of the establishments include Firesnake Forge. The salamanders servicing the Emporium's war machines also sell weapons and armor to their patrons. The store From Here to Avernus is run by Feth Allah the Amnesu, which offers currency exchange and messenger services in exchange for soul coins, particularly those containing the souls of celestial beings. The store Ichor's Away is owned by the human mage Eliak, who owes a significant financial debt to Mahadi. He sells ichor, and has been grotesquely transformed by exposure to the ichor he sells. Ripped away from the battlefields of Toril, the warlord Zneth is forced to run his small business to pay back his debts, called Zneth's Larva Farm. Pit Fiends are the quintessential tyrants and overlords of the Betezu, occupying the top of Hell's hierarchy. Having been cleansed within the pit of flame, pit fiends achieve levels of wickedness beyond that of ordinary devils, becoming beings of pure, unimaginable evil. They are both majestic and horrifying, with a hulking form many times the size of a normal human. Their bodies are armored with scales that ignite in response to their rage or excitement. A pair of massive, bat-like wings give pit fiends a gargoylish appearance, and they often wrap their wings around their fearsome red figures. Their huge fangs drip with hissing, green venom, and their prehensile tails can be cracked like whips. After rising from the pit of flame, pit fiends obtain a perfect understanding of their nature as devils. Their spirits are completely purged of impurity, as they have willfully chosen to reject chaos entirely. They are self-entitled narcissists and tyrannical masterminds, scheming to bring their dark agendas to fruition and ruthlessly pursuing their inscrutable desires. Within the depths of their enigmatic mind lies a vast, manipulative intelligence and a unique understanding of agony. Every part of a pit fiend can be used as a weapon. Their fearsome claws, powerful wings, constricting tails, and menacing maws. Their bite is both venomous and infectious, inflicting a wicked disease known as devil chills and filling the victim with vile poisons. This combination drains the victim's vitality and strength, rendering them powerless against the brutality of the pit fiend. They can envelop themselves in an aura of sheer terror and ignite their own bodies to burn anyone too close. Their scale armor and regenerative abilities make them incredibly durable, with good aligned spells and weapons, or silvered weapons being the most effective means of stopping their natural healing. The magical abilities of pit fiends revolve around creating and manipulating flames with devastating force. Their magic allows them to paralyze powerful beings, turn invisible, and use a symbol of pain to cripple their enemies. They can gate in a few Batezu from all ranks, from the lowliest lemurs to fellow pit fiends, although the more powerful the summoned devil, the fewer of them they can call. Their most dangerous magical power is the ability to cast the wish spell. Reports vary on the frequency of this ability, while some suggesting once every year and others every 99 years, granted to a mortal through a terrible ritual. Pit fiends can surpass their already immense power by training, with those choosing to learn magic becoming truly devastating forces of destruction. Pit fiend mages often specialize in evocation magic, and their magical power and expertise are limited only by time, a particularly frightening notion given their immortality. While their monstrous forms and array of magical abilities make them formidable foes, their greatest weapon is potentially their minds. Through ingenious planning, fearsome guile, and creative tactics, they can win battles even without relying on their power and magic. They typically begin a battle by enveloping themselves in their auras and summoning other devils for assistance, often positioning them to flank an enemy. They use their magical abilities to rain down hellish infernos upon enemy groups, striking fear into their hearts and magically restricting unarmored foes, especially irritating spellcasters. They viciously target those weakened by their initial onslaught. In addition to their claws, they arm themselves with jagged-toothed clubs, Ankus-like weapons, and burning maces. Their other strategies include turning invisible while attacking the most capable of perceiving them. If put in a dangerous position, they maneuver the battlefield as needed and do not hesitate to sacrifice weaker devils. The only mental shortcoming of pit fiends is their extreme hubris. Incapable of considering failure, they often seek out the most powerful enemies first, with dauntless intent to prove their unmatched greatness. Pit fiends form the terrifying nobility of the Nine Hells, and stand undisputed as the greatest of the non-unique Batezu. They are the elite overseers of practically all other devils, experts in fostering terror in both mortals and Batezu alike. They have subtlety and brutality to eliminate pretenders to their thrones. Despite their formidable status, the rank of pit fiend is a highly precarious one, as they must navigate Hell's convoluted rules and treacherous political landscape while managing the heavy responsibilities of serving Baator's true masters. Even outside of Hell, the might of the Batezu follows the pit fiend as they lead dozens of devastating armies against the Tanari in the Blood War. The dread their legions instill in mortals is enough to make most flee for days on end at the sight of them. They are not above acts of corruption and have the authority to entice mortals with Faustian bargains, but only the most powerful and promising mortals are offered their greatest temptations. Pit Fiends are often too busy with their personal plots and numerous duties to be bothered with mortal adventurers, intervening only when their plans are seriously jeopardized or on the verge of success. Pit Fiends are the rarest on the upper levels of Hell, with the exception of Avernus. They particularly avoid the colder layers, but can be found in great quantities within Nessus. They are made from worthy Gelugons or Araignées, who are subjected to the devil-scorching hellfire from the pit of flame for 1001 days. They are allowed to choose their sex after exiting the pit of flame, but changing it again requires them to re-enter it for an additional 3 days. Another way to create Pit Fiends is through the blood of Asmodeus himself, as each drop becomes a greater devil, most often a Pit Fiend. These beings are imparted with fanatical loyalty toward their creator, and Pit Fiends created this way can also spawn lesser devils, usually Barbazus, by shedding their own blood. Through this bloodletting process, Asmodeus fills his lair of hell with endless hordes of Pit Fiends. Only the greatest of them are promoted beyond the ranks of Norlbetezu. These chosen few are transformed by an archduke into a duke, a unique form of devil with its own special abilities. The Dark Eight comprises a group of Pit Fiend generals dwelling on Nessus, the 9th layer of the 9 Hells. They devise strategies and orchestrate the movements of Hell's armies. Initially consisting of 9 members, the Dark Eight renamed their council after the demise of their founder Cantrum, opting not to seek a replacement for their irreplaceable leader. Contrary to expectations, their organization operates democratically rather than hierarchically. Each member's actions are subject to a vote by the remaining 7. Being creatures of law, they excel at teamwork, collaborating to fulfill their grand schemes and ensure the Betezu's ongoing prosperity. Nevertheless, as ambitious devils, they view each other as rivals and frequently engage in treacherous intrigues and political power struggles to achieve their ambitious goals. Asmodeus, sometimes directly and at other times through the archdevils, keeps the Dark Eight focused on their responsibilities. Unlike the infernal nobility above them, the Dark Eight are generals, each tasked with overseeing a specific aspect of the blood war according to their own personal judgment. Hell's historians often puzzle over the apparent immortality of the Dark Eight. Despite eons of conflict, every member except Cantrum has remained in power. Despite the personal involvement in the blood war and the constant threat of assassination attempts and internal conflicts, they seem to maintain their longevity through cunning rather than magical means. The notion that the original Dark Eight still reigns is a devilish deception. To uphold the illusion of invincible authority, members are promptly replaced by physically altered Pit Fiends who were formerly under command when they can no longer fulfill their duties. Coupled with the loyalty of their underlings and the threat of execution, the secret of the Dark Eight has endured for eons. They currently control not just the blood war, but also exert significant influence for every other aspect of Betezu culture. They ensure that Hell's decrees align with the Archdevil's wishes without overwhelming the commoners. At times, members of the Dark Eight depart Hell, assuming mortal guises to seek information and power on other planes. They only reveal their true forms when absolutely necessary or to handle bothersome entities. Each original member of the Dark Eight corresponds to specific duties and commands a garrison of forces on one of Hell's circles except Nessus. Balzaphons serve as the supply masters of Baator, tasked with ensuring that Hell's legions remain fully equipped for the blood war. Their agents supply rations, provisions, and functional tools to the troops sustaining Hell's war. Leading the Stygian champions under Levistus, they employ superior mobility to outmaneuver demonic forces. When the overwhelming numbers of the Abyss threaten Hell, the Stygian champions utilize their forces against them. Khorans specialize in espionage and gathering intelligence to prevent surprises on Baator. Their spies infiltrate not only the Betezu ranks, but also those of Yugoloths and Celestial forces, with a focus on demonic reconnaissance. The spy master of Baator oversees the Serpentine Order's network of covert agents in Khania, although the zealous devils within often prioritize reporting to Mephistopheles first and then to Khoran. Additionally, they engage in prisoner interrogation and assassination missions. The title of Marshal of the Pit is bestowed upon the Pit Fiend who assumes the mantle of Dagos. These devils serve as strategists and court-marshals, directing the other generals throughout Baator in the Blood War and punishing Betezu traitors in many ways. The strategies of the Dagos are informed by the intelligence gathered by the Spy Master. Their garrison legion, known as the Few, consists of a small yet formidable number of troops. Stationed in Avernus, they specialize in teleportation, enabling them to shift behind or within enemy ranks despite their limited numbers. A Furcas oversees the Ministry of Mortal Relations, which manages interactions between significant mortals and devils. While the majority of mortals are typically viewed as insignificant, some have amassed enough magical power or combat skill to warrant a degree of respect. Mortal Relations focuses on corrupting and recruiting such individuals, often leaving them feeling betrayed. All devils dispatched to the material plane, whether for summoning or personal pursuits, receive briefings from Mortal Relations. Achaierai, in particular, report directly to the Dark Eight, specifically to the Furcas. The Legion led by Furcas, known as the Creeping Cadre, emerged relatively recently due to Malbolgi's malignant transformation. Armed with repulsive diseases, toxic poisons, enervating wands, scrolls of energy drain, and other vile weapons, they serve their purpose for their master. As the chief of research, a Piarza is tasked with investigating new magic, techniques, and technologies capable of fighting the Tanari. They specialize in interrogation, employing skilled Kocharan torturers from the Knoll of Blades. Many devils aspire to join Piarza's ranks for swift advancement. Under his command is the legion known as the Walkers in Fire, comprised of fire-wielding devils from Phlegethos who exploit their immunity to flame by hurling fireballs at their foes. The Minister of Promotions, or Zabos, oversees the intricate bureaucracy responsible for determining the promotions and demotions of all non-unique devils. Utilizing meticulously maintained records from Hell and Blood War reports from Dagos, Zabos determines which devils ascend in rank and which remain stagnant. Often subject to frequent replacements, the Minister of Promotions is perhaps the most reviled among the Dark Eight by the Betezu. They also oversee Mammon's Gleaming Guard, named for their pilfered and corrupted, yet angelically illustrious equipment. As the best equipped garrison force, they are summoned when specific magical equipment is needed. Zapons handle interactions with various immortal entities, often resorting to deceit. This includes Yugalos, Archons, the representatives of evil deities, and demons. Acting under the directives of the Minister of Immortal Diplomacy, devils are prohibited from abducting petitioners from the deities within Hell to prevent the catastrophic war that would ensue. Additionally, the Minister oversees the Iron Defenders of Dis, devils skilled in engineering, tunneling, repelling sieges, and maintaining defensive positions. Zimimars serve as the Ministers of Morale, ensuring the discipline of Betezu legions. In essence, they bear the responsibility of rectifying the errors of their fellow Dark Eight members when their actions incite rebellion. Their methods extend beyond mere encouragement, employing threats to enforce obedience and eradicate insurrection. Prior to battle, the Minister's minions traverse the ranks to bolster resolve, leading the Malo Dominar, relentless shock troops renowned for their unwavering ferocity. They shatter enemy formations and sow chaos among opposing forces. Ministries corresponding to each member of the Dark Eight are spread across the 9 Hells, with at least one type existing on every layer. Through these ministries, the Dark Eight exert control over nearly every aspect of a devil's existence. Even in the event of a complete destruction of a branch, emergency protocols are in place to ensure continuity of their operations. Devils of higher status face closer scrutiny in Baator, and those seeking promotion must meet stringent criteria. If there is a shortage of devils meeting promotion requirements, a caste may remain understaffed until sufficient competent devils advance, though superiors face consequences if promotions are lacking or ranks are filled with inferior candidates. Every century, the Dark Eight convene in a ceremony known as the Ring of Cantrum, accompanied by 100 Ossiluths. They deliberate specifically on the promotion of Gelgulons. The Ossiluths encircle the Dark Eight, offering insights into the achievements and ethics of the candidates, each casting one of 9 votes. Rumors have recently surfaced regarding a perilous and extensive magical rite dubbed the Bringing, allegedly planned by the Dark Eight. This ritual purportedly involves the sacrifice of 1 million soul larvae as fuel to aid in the eradication of the Tanari. Betezu have been observed purchasing soul larvae from night hags at an increased rate, although the veracity of the ceremony's planning remains uncertain. Additionally, the Dark Eight are credited with the creation of certain fiendish races, such as Malephants, and one of the chiefs of research collaborated with Tiamat to craft the Abishai. Serving as the buffer zone between the Abyss and the rest of 9 Hells, Avernus is governed not by dukes and duchesses, but by the Dark Eight. Bel, stationed within the inner precinct of his bronze citadel, collaborates with the Dark Eight, each maintaining a residence within his stronghold. It is rumored that the Dark Eight descend into Nessus quarterly for meetings with Asmodeus to discuss their forthcoming strategies for the Blood War, though alternate accounts suggest these gatherings occur every 66 days. These sessions also serve as forums for deliberating potential promotions, issuing decrees to the Greater and Lesser Bitezu, and engaging in other administrative tasks when not leading their respective forces. Concealed within their stronghold in Malshim, the Dark Eight are said to safeguard the Ra-Thon dagger, a sacred Bitezu artifact of considerable historical significance despite its simple enchanted nature. Its symbolic value is significant enough that the Tanari covet it, aiming to procure it to undermine the morale of Hell's legions and potentially sow chaos among their ranks. Apart from Bel, the Dark Eight seldom engage with the Archdevils, and when they do, it's primarily to fulfill their mandates or vie for new recruits. In terms of power and influence, the Archdevils far surpass the Dark Eight and are content to delegate the Blood War to pit fiends while they attend to their own affairs. Bel stands as the exception to this dynamic, having risen through the ranks under one of the marshals of the pit and proven himself as a formidable warlord and cunning strategist. Asmodeus appointed Bel as an Archdevil after he overthrew Zariel, with the condition that he continued to assist the Dark Eight, now leading them in the conflict against the Abyss. Bel's personal involvement with the Blood War garners support from them, who serve him loyally, granting him a bit of enhanced protection from the usual intrigues of Baator. Opinions among other devils toward the Dark Eight vary widely, ranging from unwavering loyalty to vehement loathing. Allegedly, 106 Kornagons are prepared to defend the Dark Eight with their lives, driven by either fear or loyalty, with membership in their guard regiment being highly coveted. Conversely, Amnesus actively seek to undermine the Dark Eight by any means necessary, instructing their servants to assail the minions of their superiors. Although no Bitezu can recall a time before the Dark Eight's dominion, all are familiar with Cantrum and the Council's initial incarnation as the Dark Nine. Various narratives circulate regarding the true genesis of the Dark Eight, debating whether the Pit Fiends coalesced autonomously or if an Archdevil orchestrated their emergence. According to some accounts, Asmodeus established the Dark Eight following a failed insurrection by several Archdevils, rewarding their allegiance by consolidating power away from Baator's nobility and ensuring their obedience, thereby extending his influence over most Bitezu. While Asmodeus deems the Blood War futile, he recognizes its utility as a distraction. Secretly convening the Pit Fiends, he perpetuates the eternal conflict to divert attention from other matters. Alternative versions suggest that Cantrum founded the Dark Eight to instill greater order among the Bitezu, aligning with like-minded Pit Fiends to enforce discipline across Baator. Irrespective of their original purpose, Cantrum eventually met his demise, though the circumstances surrounding his assassination also vary in the legends. The most prevalent story recounts a paladin named Ra-Thon embarking on a crusade through hell, wielding a mystical dagger forged in the Outlands. After vanquishing countless fiends over nearly a year, Ra-Thon reached Cantrum on the 333rd day, plunging the dagger into his heart and instantly destroying him. According to the legend, Ra-Thon never escaped Baator. Another version, discovered in a tattered journal amidst the ice of Cania, is widely believed among Bitezu. Here, the paladin meets his end within an hour of entering Baator, but a red Abishai locates the dagger, and in frustration with Hell's rigid case system, murdered Cantrum. Allegedly, Cantrum retaliated by slaying the Abishai before dying. This account serves as a cautionary tale to high-ranking Bitezu, warning against underestimating the potency of ambition and anger, while inspiring lower-ranking Bitezu with the notion that even the lowliest can effect change with sufficient courage and determination. Balzaphon is the sole surviving member of the original Dark Eight, a composed and calculated pit fiend who leverages gifts and endorsements to solidify her position among the council. By playing the other members against each other, she ensures her requests are seldom denied, given her responsibility for distributing their provisions. The current Corrin is perceived as overly passionate, oscillating between brooding apprehension and intimidating rage. However, his chaotic demeanor serves as a facade to conceal his true nature as a knowledgeable and meticulous strategist. While he anticipates the worst outcomes, any outward display of surprise is a calculated ploy to deceive his adversaries. Dagos has been described as a disdainful pit fiend who demands discipline from all under his authority, while believing himself exempt from any such regulations. Due to his strict adherence to order, intolerance of any form of corruption, and swift punishment of mistakes, those under his command are promoted at an accelerated rate. Furcus, the second longest-serving member of the Dark Eight, employs bullying and blackmail tactics unlike Balzaphon. He manipulates newer members to achieve his objectives while ensuring the swift elimination of chaotic mortals. The Peerza is the second newest member of the Dark Eight, and initially struggled to balance guile with assertiveness. Despite commanding fear in his fiery forces, she finds a stronger connection with Mephistopheles and his research on hellfire. The current Zabos is both meticulous and cautious, compelled to carefully weigh his decisions given the precariousness of his position. Collaborating with Zimimar, he works diligently to prevent uprisings and maintains amicable relations with other members of the Dark Eight. The current Zapan employs a cunning and persuasive approach, securing his position solely through his adept bargaining skills. While his obsequious demeanor around archdevils and deities earns him disdain from many, his talent for crafting enticing deals and manipulating emotions renders him an effective leader. He refers to those under his command as his employees and upholds his position with a firm yet empathetic persona. Initially intended as Furcus's protege, the current Zapan thrives in his role. The Zamimar, outwardly friendly, harbors an exploitative nature beneath her facade. She wears a disingenuous smile when interacting with low-ranking devils and adversaries alike, and in times of low morale, she increases the number of deceased adorning Avernus until it is bolstered again. Establishing an extensive information network down to the level of Spinagons, her agents surveil mortal visitors and devils alike. Originally in Mammon's service, Zimimar was elevated by Cantrum and commanded Mammon's palace guard, comprising 6 bone devil companies, responsible for safeguarding the archdevil and enforcing his will. Dispater also has a retinue of archdevils and dukes who serve him personally. Bitru is one such duke. He has a traditionally diabolical appearance, resembling a muscular humanoid twice as tall as a normal man, with scarlet skin and lustrous black hooves, horns, and wings. As one of Dispater's commanders, Bitru leads 70 companies of Achaierai, each raised in the vast estates of Dis that he rules over on his lord's behalf. Among Dispater's fief-holding vassals, he is the strongest. He possesses a wide variety of spell-like abilities, including creating a wall of smoke, fulfilling another being's limited wish, causing fear in anyone he points to, and summoning Achaierai devils. He typically fights with his personal weapon, a huge, two-handed sword. He also has a collection of ropes of entanglement and daggers of venom. Alocer is also an archdevil duke who serves Dispater. He is a tall humanoid with red gold skin and a fearsome, leonine head, with eyes that flash with fiery light visible from a distance. As one of Dispater's commanders, the warlike Alocer leads 36 companies of Achaierai, as often seen riding a nightmare around his estates into battle. Alocer is known to wear plate mail and wield broadswords, axes, maces, and daggers in combat, using them in conjunction with his powerful jaws. Like Bitru, he has a sizable collection of ropes of entanglement and daggers of venom. During battle, he is willing and able to seize and use any other available weapons. His notable abilities include the power to blind anyone who meets his gaze for 2 to 12 days, except for other devils, as well as cause fear with his touch, summon 1 or 2 Achaierai, as well as the ability to fly with the skill and speed of an Achaierai. Biffant, called the Provost of the Iron City, is an archdevil duke who serves Dispater as his provost, responsible for running his master's palace. He is a humanoid of portly stature with blood-red skin, a small tufted tail, and a pair of inward-hooked horns above his temples. His eyes are entirely a blue-green hue, lacking pupils or whites, and he is always smiling. As the Provost of Dispater, Biffant manages the affairs of the Iron Tower, commands its staff, and controls a small treasury. He is almost always within Dispater's city, usually in the palace itself. While there, he is never without his attendants, 2 Achaierai messengers, and 6 Spinagon servants, who act as both staff members and guards. Biffant is a crafty devil, with plans extending well into the future, but is not particularly brave or forceful. He is very friendly with Dispater's consort Lillis, said to be as trusting and close as devils ever grow. Some say they are closer to each other in understanding and trust than to Dispater himself. Even so, they demonstrate an unfailing loyalty to their lord, making Dispater's control of his realm the envy of other archdukes. Biffant typically carries around an ornate iron rod as his badge of office. The item can function as a morning star, but in battle, he will seize whatever is at hand. He prefers to let others fight on his behalf, calling for or summoning aid if attacked. He can summon a few Spinagons, or 1 or 2 Achaierai if necessary, and radiates fear in a short radius. Merodach is another archdevil duke in the service of Dispater. He appears as a giant wolf with a massive pair of spreading long horns, large feathered wings, and a prehensile serpentine tail. Although he has wings, he is a clumsy flyer and prefers to run on all fours. As one of Dispater's commanders, he leads the 21 companies of homunculus. Merodach's supernatural abilities include granting limited wishes to others, causing fear by touch, and summoning homunculus. In battle, he can fight with tooth and claw, strike at his enemies by slightly turning his great horns, and use his tail to trip, blind, and disarm his foes. Often he rears up to wield a weapon with his front claws, typically carried in his tail up until that point. Although he owns no magical or otherwise special weapons, he does favor polearms. Marance is a powerful wizard from the Talendar house in Selgaunt from around 1250 DR. Along with his brother Nuldrevan, he is one of the most gifted heirs of the Talendar family. When Thamelon Usgrevan returned to the city to re-establish the Usgrevan house, Marance and Nuldrevan decided to stop him. However, Thamelon fought back, and in a skirmish, he killed Marance, and Marance's spirit was sent to the 9 hells. After enduring torment for some time, he was admitted to the court of the archfiend ruler of Dis. Over the years, he became one of the most powerful wizards in the hells, likely the only non-Batezu to rise so high. Obsessed with vengeance against Thamelon, Marance was eventually granted permission by the archfiend in 1372 to return to the prime material plane to fulfill his vendetta. He returned to Selgaunt and reconnected with Nuldrevan. Lillis is Dispater's consort. She appears as a normal-sized, plump human woman of middle age with a well-preserved body. However, several traits set her apart from a human, including orange-red skin, small horns, copper-colored hair, bright green eyes, long red nails, delicate cloven black hooves, a forked tail, and wings. Lillis is a careful strategist and a figure of exceptional intelligence. Though she is one of the older and weaker consorts, she possesses an array of spell-like abilities. Her notable powers include the ability to cause fear by pointing at a victim, induce insanity by touch once per day, and summon 1 to 3 Achaierai with high success rates. Living in the lair of Dis, Lillis is almost always found in Dispater's Iron Tower. Despite being his consort, she also serves as his spymaster and diplomat. She keeps an eye on events within and beyond the Hells, with her network of spies reputedly second only to Asmodeus. Her careful maneuvering keeps her position as secure as any of Baator's other nobles. She is presumably the mother of Dispater's daughter, Malachabra. However, Dispater's heavy reliance on his representative Tytavilis means that he outranks even Lillis. She is also close to the archdevil Biffant, Dispater's provost and manager of the Iron Tower. The two trust each other, as much as devils do, and show unfailing loyalty to their lord. Malachabra is an archfiend and daughter of Dispater. In the late 14th century, she was ambushed by the Symbule. She appears humanoid, with striking features and an obsidian black body. Her fingers end in talons as long as a man's arm, and she has sleek bat wings that are ruby red on the outside and black on the inside. She also has 3 snake's tails, one of which ends in a glossy black spade shape. Her horned head sits on an unnaturally long neck. Behind her red, beautiful lips is a forked tongue, and a flame burns in her ale-brown eyes. Malachabra can cast or use a sphere of seeing or scrying, though it fails when used to observe its own surroundings. She can also teleport short distances and transfer her consciousness into objects to evade death. The spade shape at the end of her tail is sharp enough to slash when whipped. She has the power to contact another person's mind and is confident in her ability to remove other archdevils' influence from human minds. She can also spit fire. Malachabra claims to be the daughter of Dispater and considers Nurgle a brute. At some point, she had slain a dragon to claim the lair that she had occupied by the year of wild magic 1372. She briefly encountered Elminster while she was being tormented by Nurgle. Although she offered to free the old wizard from Nurgle's mental influence, she was ultimately defeated by him. Soon after, the Symbol stormed Avernus in an attempt to rescue Elminster. Nurgle had transformed Elminster and hidden him in Malachabra's lair, luring the Symbol to confront them. They quickly ambushed and destroyed Malachabra, who barely survived by concealing her consciousness in a spark and fleeing. She survived, but barely. Tytavilis is Dispater's most prominent duke and assumes various roles in his service, serving as an ambassador, advisor, messenger, and harbinger. Dispater entrusts Tytavilis with significant responsibilities, including the governance of Dis and representation on his behalf, indicating a high level of trust. It remains uncertain whether messages directed to Dispater ever even reached the Archduke himself. Dispater's decision to appoint Tytavilis may have been a crucial error. While his concerns about external threats are valid, he overlooked the potential danger posed by his own advisor. His power lies not in physical strength, but in his manipulative eloquence, adept at swaying others and fostering a false sense of camaraderie. Having ascended to the role of Dispater's right hand, Tytavilis exploits his paranoia, instilling fear of imagined conspiracies, even involving Asmodeus. To safeguard his precarious position, Tytavilis eliminates dissenters and orchestrates situations for Dispater to resolve, thereby enhancing his own perceived value. Despite widespread fear of retaliation, one figure, Arioch the Iron Avenger, dares to oppose him. Acting as Dispater's enforcer, Arioch vigilantly protects the city of Dis and accompanies Dispater, shielding him from potential threats beyond Dis and fending off other devils seeking to undermine him. Dispater once held a nominal alliance with Mephistopheles, though he secretly resented the Cold Lord and feared that Mephistopheles possessed knowledge beyond his own grasp. Their shared animosity toward Balzabul stemmed from Dispater's belief that the Slug Archduke lacked the pedigree of a true Batezu, a distinction only recognized by beings as ancient as Dispater himself. Similarly, he formed an alliance with Mammon until Mammon's quick betrayal to Asmodeus shattered their partnership. Despite this setback, he remained submissive after the Reckoning, considering himself fortunate to still retain his position. Loyalty to Asmodeus remains paramount for Dispater, with only the King of Hell's call capable of drawing him from his iron tower, and even then he would require considerable persuasion to consider betrayal anew. Dispater's stance toward other devils has evolved, particularly influenced by Glacia's ascension. Seeking to establish neutrality, he has distanced himself from allies and sought peace with rivals, albeit unsuccessfully given the inherent treachery of the Nine Hells. Nonetheless, other archdevils covet his arcane knowledge, including his ability to extract divine energy from repentant specters who had missed their chance for redemption. Spectral entities, also known as specters, manifest as undead beings with an ethereal ghost-like appearance. Their form appears humanoid, mostly transparent, with a faint luminescence. Despite their incorporeal nature, they retain the semblance of their former selves, bearing visible wounds from their violent demise. Specters maintain a size akin to humanoids, but possess no weight. Driven by an intense hatred for living, they retain their full cognitive faculties. Their touch not only inflicts pain, but also siphons life energy from their victims, which revitalizes specters. When a humanoid's life force is fully drained, they undergo a transformation into a new specter under the control of the original entity. Typically, they assail their targets by passing through solid objects such as walls, ceilings, or floors. Encounters with specters usually involve a small group numbering less than a dozen. However, they are vulnerable to natural sunlight, often fleeing in its presence. Specters arise when attempts are made to transform a humanoid into a spectral creature. Unlike other spectral beings, capable of creating and enslaving entities of their kind, specters specifically emerge from humanoids. For instance, the shadow dragons of Clan Jezred took control of the Drow city of Chalcen, converting its inhabitants, including all the Drow, into shadowy entities, resulting in the formation of specters. In 634, the descendants of these Drow rebelled against their oppressors, ultimately defeating them and transforming the shadow dragons into spectral beings. These Drow descendants later achieved the transformation of some into Drow dragons. They also mastered a unique form of magic, altering their breath weapon to create spectral entities upon killing their targets. When used on humanoids, this magic can give rise to specters. Outside of the prime material plane, They can be encountered within the domains of Dread and Palpatia, the 241st layer of the Abyss. In Cormonthir, the remnants of the old elven court are plagued by specters of numerous elves and dwarves. Areas infested with specters and their immediate surroundings exude a chilling atmosphere, though it is not inherently harmful. Animals instinctively avoid these areas, experiencing profound fear when compelled to approach. As undead entities align with negative energy, specters serve the deities Jergal and Kiaransali. Dispater backs territories specialized in soul harvesting, easily generating large yields, and rewards those who enhance their productivity. He's open to exchanging territories and minions with fellow archdevils, and isn't averse to experimenting with new schemes. Like many other devils, he's particularly fixated on the soul trade, dispatching his envoys across the material plane for endless searching. His fascination with secrets fuels his adeptness in soul trading. He covets souls of seekers of hidden knowledge, and bargains with those who possess such valuable secrets. Dispater and his harvesters understand the subjective value of information, dispatching imps to gather diverse data from the material plane, from arcane discoveries to personal connections of potential targets. This intelligence serves as bargaining tools, enticing individuals from peasants to archmages into infernal pacts. Dispater is often recognized as the most comprehensible archdevil among the mortals, and is revered as the patron of war and intrigue. His followers, embodying principles of strategy and planning, possess both the cunning of generals and the strength of warriors. Despite their defensive stance, they remain adaptable, adhering to Dispater's doctrine of contingency planning. When conflict arises, they ensure engagements occur on their terms and at chosen battlegrounds. His followers exhibit meticulous attention to detail, particularly the devils residing in Dis, where survival demands unwavering vigilance. They boast exceptional martial skills, mastering various weapons and armors, particularly those forged from iron. Their supernatural abilities encompass summoning araignées, transmuting their bodies into iron, inducing rust on items, detecting metal, and teleporting to safety when threatened. Though cults devoted to Dispater exist, they are not actively endorsed by the Father of Strife. Instead, he entices influential individuals with promises of power. Dispater's agents wield influence from the shadows, manipulating actual authorities with scandalous secrets and concealed weaknesses, such as nefarious viziers, ministers, and counselors. True disciples of Dispater are deeply suspicious, bordering on paranoia, relying on mercenaries and minions due to limited allies and isolation. His covert cults mirror his secretive and militant structure, embodying evil in its most enduring yet stagnant form. They conspire to infiltrate religious and governmental institutions, often seeking to usurp existing power structures. Warlike humanoid races, like goblins or hobgoblins, venerate Dispater as the epitome of invincibility, while renegade mind flayers occasionally seek his aid for knowledge that could grant them freedom from the Elder Brain's control. Joining the cult of Dispater entails a ritual where an intelligent being is sacrificed on an iron altar, overseen by an araignées who reports to Dispater afterward. Those who align with him typically include fighters, combat-focused rogues, and rangers known for their abilities in battle, wielding iron axes and swords. Dispatient clerics dress in grey attire and often adorn themselves in iron, from their attire to their maces and masks, concealing their faces. Dispater's sanctuaries are typically secluded and fortified, equipped with escape routes, hidden passages, and traps for defense. While not all are formal temples, disciples establish heavily defended strongholds, some even fortified with armies under their command. Many cultists spend their time in these outposts, reviewing protocols and contingency plans. The avatar of Dispater is described as a large figure with yellow skin and the horns of a pit fiend. His aspects, which resemble him, wield weaker versions of his rod and wear extravagant clothing akin to their masters. He typically dispatches his aspects to handle matters beyond Dis that demand personal attention, such as tempting mortals or negotiating with other archdevils in Nessus. Despite their combat training, they are hesitant to engage in fights due to sharing Dispater's paranoia about safety. They avoid risky confrontations, prioritize escape plans, and aim to swiftly eliminate the most dangerous opponent to ensure their survival. Employing tactics from a distance, they erect iron barriers to keep foes at bay, constantly seeking strategic advantages and surrounding themselves with minions. Aspects prefer commanding devils rather than mortals, finding the latter task distasteful. Despite originating from the paranoia-ridden Iron City, they find no solace on the material plane due to the absence of distrust among its inhabitants, which heightens their own sense of suspicion. Their presence instills greater fear in those around them, and they actively cultivate an atmosphere of paranoia. Remarkably, aspects are more adept at navigating society than Dispater himself. While sometimes summoned and created by cults, in Faerûn, Dispater's aspects seek souls capable of experiencing regret for their misdeeds before death, transforming them into specters to harvest their divine energy. Dispater, as an archduke, is of an immense age, surpassing most of his peers in antiquity. Countless eons have passed since his ascent to power, to the extent that his origins are obscured by time, unlike figures such as Bel, who can be classified within a double type. According to the Pact Primeval, he was once an angel allied with Asmodeus, Mephistopheles, and other dark angels who later became the first Erinyes. Together, they transformed Hell from a desolate wasteland into a realm of industry, torture, and punishment. Dispater is believed to have facilitated the agreement between Tiamat and the Githyanki. Initially, he proposed a deal where he would offer direct aid in exchange for the souls of the entire Githyanki race, but his offer was rejected. Instead, Dispater secured Gith's soul as collateral for Tiamat, who promised to provide red dragon mounts to the Githyanki. However, the Lady of Avarice inadvertently breached the terms of the agreement by demanding the Githyanki's assistance in one of her battles, which, although is not a direct violation, conflicted with Gith's contract that the Githyanki perpetually waged the eternal crusade against the Mind Flayers. This contractual breach liberated Gith's soul from Dispater's possession. The extent to which Dispater entrusts Tytavilus with his own domain has led to speculation that they may be one and the same entity. Some theories suggest that Tytavilus is a disguised form of Dispater, or that the Herald has usurped his master's position without detection. Dispater's insatiable thirst for knowledge propels him relentlessly towards his ultimate ambition, unraveling the enigmas veiled within the multiverse's depths. His sinister charm, coupled with an astute mind adept at deciphering intricate puzzles, renders him a menacing force to contend with. His mastery in concealing his wrath makes him capable of strategies more complex than mortal minds are able to comprehend. The maze city of Dis and his confusing, reality-bending iron tower protect him. Yet like all those who inhabit his lair of the Nine Hells, Dispater is a victim of his own success, unwilling, or perhaps now with so many enemies, unable to escape the labyrinth of his own creation.